Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Curbs IndyCar Edition. I'm your host, Nate Woods, and I'm back once again with my co-host, Thiemo Albers-Daly. Thiemo, how we doing?
Exhausted, but happily exhausted after not just the IndyCar, but if we'd just had the IndyCar this weekend, I still would have been happily
Still would have
exhausted.
been
But
satisfied. Yeah.
it was a very good return to form for Phoenix. I thought I had absolutely no expectations going in, having not watched any of the IndyCar's action previously at this venue, but a bit like Joey Logano in commentary, very happy I turned up and saw what I got to see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. This is your first experience with Phoenix. This is a lot like last year when we went to Milwaukee, or 2 years
Did
ago.
we not go 2 years ago? I was going to say
two
we
years
went there
ago. Yeah,
before.
2 years
Two
ago when we
years.
when we went to Milwaukee and you had never seen a race in Milwaukee. So this is
All I'm saying is I come into this world and we start adding more ovals and we start having great races and I'm not saying they're related, but I'm not saying they're not related either.
yeah, this race in Phoenix was as I mentioned yesterday when we were chatting, what we call an ESPN instant classic here in the States. So
Yes, I would have to agree with that. I think jumping in slightly already, but even if Palou had stayed in the race, it would have still have been a very interesting one. I don't think he would have necessarily run away with it in the way that he did in St. Pete's.
yeah.
And anyone who says otherwise was not watching the race, I don't think.
Yeah. Just a I mean this race had everything that we want in an oval race. Tight racing, side by side action, lots of cars moving up and down the order, different pit strategies. I mean, it literally had everything that we could really hope for.
And a few things that I, for one, just haven't seen before in any motorsport category, never mind IndyCar. So there was lots to dive into,
It,
lots to
it,
really enjoy.
for the first time in over 600 days, we have a new championship leader that's not named Alex Palou.
I know. What do you think this is? Formula One?
Yeah, right. So, well, let's jump into it. We didn't have to wait long for uh action to really heat up on track and kind of give us a gauge of how this race was going to be.
Yeah, I think exactly that. I was saying just now, saw something that I'd never seen before in motorsport, and that was courtesy of Dennis Hauger bringing out the caution on lap 12. He spun by himself by the looks of things. Like Rasmussen was close by, but I don't know if there was contact, and it was minimal contact at best if there was.
Yeah, I've gone
And
back and looked at it probably a dozen times now, and I'm I'm
you're still not sure.
I'm still not sure. I mean, the car twitched, Rasmussen's car twitched a little bit, and it just makes me believe that with how Rasmussen was driving the entire race, I wouldn't be surprised if there was just a little tiny touch there.
Yeah, but more impressively was the fact
Yeah,
that Hauger not only saved it, but he didn't hit a damn thing.
yeah,
And on a short course oval, it's a mile long, the whole thing, and he didn't hit a wall, another car. He came close, but
yeah,
didn't. And everyone's just looking at him going, not only were you scoring points on debut in top 10, which no one achieved as a rookie last season, but then your follow-up race, okay, yeah, the end result wasn't spectacular in comparison, but you survived it and you survived that kind of an incident. That's
right.
pretty damn good. He's kid's got talent.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he managed to not tear up the drivetrain on that car.
I don't think
You
anyone knows, including him.
going backwards that fast and then pulling a J turn to like a Hollywood stunt driver to get the car turned back around. And I mean,
Well,
it
if he needs
was,
a backup career after his IndyCar career's over, maybe Hollywood's he's going to follow in Tanner
yeah.
Faust's footsteps and go and do a bunch of stunt driving.
You messaged me as soon as that happened, and you're like, "Do you believe what you just saw? Did that just happen?"
Oh, okay. You made a reference that was above my head. I'm gonna have to go and have a look at that. But it's like, yeah, I've not seen anything like that. You watch NASCAR and all the different support series that go there. You spin, you're done. You're hitting something all the time. Doesn't matter how
Yeah,
short or large the oval is, you're hitting something. So the fact that he managed to not do that in IndyCar, just madness to my eyes, but just like you say, perfect sort of teasers to this is the kind of race this is going to be.
Yeah,
And sure enough, about 11 laps later, once we got going again, and then as soon as we got going again, drama of the biggest kind, I would say, and needed, I think, for this season. Although Alex Blow will probably disagree.
yeah. Yeah, we got started again, and lap 23, caution comes back out. Palou and Rinus VK tangle in the outside wall, and Palou gets knocked out of the race.
Which we did not have on our bingo cards. Let's face it. I was
No,
double checking who I had in my fancy IndyCar team, and obviously I'd stuck below in there after last year. And typical, now it bites me in the backside,
yeah.
and he
Well,
goes crashing out immediately.
he had a fantastic start. Palou did, and
No,
you know,
phenomenal.
yeah, I mean, he went from 10th to
10th to
4th
4th. Yeah.
in like the first lap and a half, 2 laps of the race. I mean, it was just
Everyone's watching that going, oh no, not again.
well, and there was so much happening at the very beginning of the race too. I mean, there were so many cars just not just going into the first caution, but at that restart, the 2 laps that we had after the restart before the next caution, cars were making massive moves on track, and it was uh so much that I mean the commentators couldn't keep up, the cameras couldn't keep up. I'm watching the timing and scoring on the IndyCar website, and it's not being able to keep up. And so it was almost frustrating because you're not sure, it's a newish season. This is our second race, and we're not necessarily used to the paint schemes yet. And so you're trying to figure out,
Mm.
you know, who is this making these massive moves? And every time you look down at a timing and scoring sheet or a car reference sheet, it's changed again. And so now you're still trying to figure out, trying to play catch
Whenever I
up. But
watch an IndyCar race, I always think about you there with your exaggerated bank of monitors with every possible bit of information. But like, if he can't keep track of it, what chance do I have? I've just got to kind of go with it and hope for the best.
well, I want to get your hot take on this incident between VK and Palou. I have one. I want to hear what yours is, and then I will dive into mine.
Yeah, I think I'm still not used to spotters being in IndyCar, and that's why I forget about them so often. So I see an incident like this and think, bit of a racing incident. Just, there was a bit of a gap, not enough. Palou just didn't see him, squeezed, shit happens. But then, as you pointed out, spotters exist in IndyCar. Like, yeah, maybe someone should have told one or both of them. Maybe they did, and it just wasn't soon enough. Or maybe, a bit like you were saying just now, there was so much going on that even the spotters got a little bit out of it. And unfortunately for Palou, on his 100th start as well, it's kind of whenever there's an anniversary or something always happens for someone, and it's never usually good.
Yeah,
Um, so I think for me, racing incident, but if you were to put the blame on anyone, you've got to put on the spotters, I think, because the drivers, they rely on them more here than I'm used to in other series where they just don't exist.
yeah, and I think I'm pretty much the same. It's a racing incident. Palou is working his way to an echelon in IndyCar where give him another 5 years and we would probably be ready to crown him the greatest IndyCar driver of all time. And I certainly think he's already in the top five.
Hmm.
And with that being said, he should have been looking in his mirrors. I
He didn't
mean,
have the Jedi reflexes that Dennis Hauger had.
yeah. And so I can't put 100% of the blame on a spotter or put 100% of the blame on
Hmm.
Palou, or put any 100% of the blame on VK. I mean, VK, that was a high chance move that he was
High
he
risk,
was
high
taking.
reward, but at the same
Yes,
time, like 23 or 250 very early to
yeah,
go for that. But at the same time, heat of the moment, if you're in the racing car, are you doing
yeah,
something different? We don't know. We don't
yeah.
we don't do that.
Well, it was shaping up to be one of those races anyway, where it was going
Yeah.
to be a high. uh, high attrition,
High
not
octane.
attrition, but yeah, high octane, high blood pressure race.
Oh, most certainly. And
And
I think the interesting thing about it was the fact that we didn't get another portion, I don't think, until lap 143. So we just had this constant tension of
right, it
watching
was going to happen.
close,
Something's going to
fast
happen.
racing.
Yeah,
Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? Somehow it didn't come a lot sooner. Because again, you've had these two instances, and one where it's not really an incident, and then, oh, that is an incident. And
yeah,
then pit cycle comes in, you think, oh, everyone's going to start closing back up again. You've got people overtaking for the sake of trying to get back in position, and it's all mixed up and topsy-turvy. Nothing happens, and you're just kind of you're building, and then a little bit like the Dennis Hauger incident. It was just again, I've gone back and had a look at the replays of it. Louis Foster just seems to lose it a bit by himself, it would seem,
yeah,
and I think Norton Siegel was overtaking him and maybe got a little bit too close, but again, no contact as far as I could tell, and just went a bit high. He kissed the wall. It's done, pretty much.
yeah.
And caution comes back out again, and everyone decides it's stop time. Let's get back in and try and take advantage of this.
Well, I thought, during that Palou caution, we saw some drivers come into the pits and
Very early starts.
really start that alternative strategy. And of course, Scott Dixon, who is the king of alternative strategies, it seems like, was one of those takers. And I think that really helped shape kind of that mid race for us. You had 4 or 5 drivers that were on this alternative, strong drivers that were on this alternative
Mm,
strategy, and that just threw a whole other layer of complexity into it, because we saw, throughout this race where, new tires were definitely the way to go. And we figured it out finally on that last caution. And but uh there was this point in the race where, you know if you were, you had 25 lap older tires than the guys behind you, you were going to get overtaken, unless the guys behind you with the newer tires also had 30 laps on their tires. you know those
yeah,
tires,
it
they
was an
fell
interesting
off
way for
into,
everything to sort of
yeah,
converge and also yet keep everyone separate. You're
yeah,
jumbled but closer, and you're kind of the best and worst of all the worlds and possibilities of everything. And
yeah,
strategy just sort of it didn't go out the window, but it more came into the idea of you're just gonna have to go and race this thing, guys, and figure it out for yourselves because there's only so much we can do apparently,
yeah,
and it's all kind of gotten a bit messy.
yeah. Well, we got a well-timed caution with that Louis Foster incident, and like you
Hmm.
said, I mean, that was, personally, I think that was a questionable yellow. I mean, he, he was able to, he didn't hit the wall hard. We didn't see any bits of the car come off, and he was able to make it to pit road. So I'm like, well, I almost would have preferred them to keep racing under green, but
Yeah, I think maybe partly down to the fact that we've not been to Phoenix for a while. Maybe they just wanted to err on the side of
could be,
caution and get
yeah,
used to. I mean, hopefully, we come back here again. Hopefully, we're not waiting another, what is it, 8 years or something silly before we
yes,
come back.
yeah,
Um, and it's just kind of okay. We're not 100% sure how all of these things play out. We've had one of each on instance already with Hauger and Palou. Let's just try that. But again, it didn't hurt the race. It didn't damage it. I think it was always going to be fun when you got the convergence of cars back again when we went green. And to Christian Rasmussen, you weren't minding that too much because then you got
yeah,
to go and start being Christian Rasmussen, which for the majority of the time was quite enjoyable to watch. He is a legitimate threat, and we can talk about him more later when we do the team by team analysis. But I don't think he's a championship contender this
no,
year by any stretch of imagination. But he is this wild card driver who has nothing to lose and will just go for it, in particular on these kinds of tracks.
yep,
And a little bit like Lundgaard with Award last week, who just doesn't really care who is in front of him in terms of if it's even if it's my teammate, I'm not gonna have any mercy. Rasmussen just applies that to everyone. And the best bit of commentary I thought for the entire race was Will Buxton talking Joe Logano, saying you enjoy how he's overtaking now just to get to the front. You wait now to see when he was at the front what he was doing to the lap cars like he did back last season as well.
Right.
You go, if anything, he's more aggressive, which is ridiculous. And I think the quote that Logano was saying, like, he's got a lot of guts, not a lot of brain.
Yeah, we speaking of Rasmussen, I mean, his charge through the field, not just at the midpoint of the race, but also at the beginning of the race. I mean, and
Stratospheric.
I mean the commentators noticed it. I mean, they mentioned it several times. They were showing us his in-car camera. He had such a loose car. I mean, that steering wheel looked like a feather would knock it into a spin. And
Well, we saw that last season as well when he won. It was
yeah, in
exactly the same.
Milwaukee,
He was
yeah,
just dancing the whole time, and yet somehow he makes it work for him.
yeah. I would like to see him in a NASCAR where
I want to see him
the
rallying.
those twitches are normal. That is what you expect in a stock car. Yeah, I would love to see that. I feel like he probably excelled pretty well in a short track. So, but yeah, all good things come to an end. And when we're talking about Rasmussen, lap 207, another caution. And
Of all the
uh,
people to get caught up in it, he tangles with willpower. Where I think this is the thing with Rasmussen as well, where he's improving, but he's not at the top of his game yet. He still makes it unnecessarily complicated for himself and just needs a little bit more patience. He would have got past Power if he'd just been a bit more, not necessarily cautious, but if he'd just bided his time slightly and wasn't so urgently feeling as if he had to get past him now, now, now. And Power was just being raw power. He'd got to the front of the field, terrible qualifying with that crash. Brilliant strategy to get him to the front, properly dicing it, and you go, okay, Rasmussen's probably going to get past him, but he's making him work for it, and I like that because it shows that you can still fight this kid. It's not he's untouchable on short ovals. You can do battle, and then he just a bit overly aggressive for my liking, but madly. This is the first of I think two occasions Rasmussen hits the wall, seemingly okay, and
yeah,
just drives on as if nothing
and
happened.
and it wasn't even the last time he hit the wall either.
Well, exactly,
Uh,
first of two, I think, and
First
and
of,
just
or this was the second of three that I know of.
second of three.
So,
Geez,
yeah,
okay, yeah, even worse at that point
yeah,
then.
yeah.
And
So,
then poor Will Power gets taken out of the equation essentially.
yeah, I think this is a lot like the Palou VK incident from earlier in the race, where it was just that it was a racing incident. Um, I think that Rasmussen was definitely driving more aggressively than I would have liked to have seen, but uh, part of this blame has to be on Power. It just I have to put some of it on Power.
I'll politely disagree just because for the sake of it. I think he was I think he pushed him up enough and I think he was giving as good as he was getting. And I think Rasmussen maybe just isn't used to that.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, you
and
have to. I mean, as a driver like Power, who's been around for 20 years now, you
mm,
have you have to have the knowledge that okay, I see this car getting bigger in my mirror. I'm going to get past. I'm going to do my best to hold him off until I can no longer hold him off. And you know,
I just think he didn't think he was at that point yet where he wasn't able to hold him off any longer. So, but you live and you learn, I suppose. Even 20 seasons in, you're still going to be learning stuff.
no, that's true. And with a new team, he's learning new stuff as well. So I think he was just happy to be out front after what happened last
It's
weekend.
all
So
part of the season long story to glory that we need a tough start to
yes,
make it
that's right.
worthwhile by the time we get to the end. It's
That's
all part
right.
of the plan, mate.
But we had a lot of drivers that took advantage of this late caution, even though we were everybody had made a final stop. We
It was
uh,
gutsy moves where everybody went in because you're going to have to do a lot of
yeah,
work back through the
yeah,
fields if you were going to try and capitalize on it. And I think obviously we saw it work for one driver in particular, but not everyone had a smoother sailing of it. So it was really interesting to
yeah,
see who was able to make that work out for them.
yeah. On that last restart, we saw a lot of great passes as well. The drivers that elected to come in to pit for tires, weren't starting in bad positions, but
Mm.
you had Award and Newgarden that were restarting what seventh and eighth or eighth and ninth, I think. And so, close enough to where we talked about earlier, those the tire strategies, those new tires were unstoppable until, you know, 35 laps into the run. And so,
And because it
uh,
was that sort of part of the race where you weren't necessarily going to need to get past 35 laps, you could afford to
right,
push it that little bit further and
exactly.
just risk it. And
Yep.
it worked out pretty much for
Yeah,
Newgarden and Award, really, as well.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It made for a really exciting finish. Of course, then, we get down to the end and we had, I mean, Kurt, Rasmussen, even with his trouble with power, was still leading the
Mm.
race with 10 laps to go. He slapped the wall when who was it? It was when
Must have
Kirkwood
been
was
Newgarden
pass. It
or
was when
Kirkwood, yeah.
Kirkwood was passing him, and Rasmussen got back into the wall for a third time of the day, and but then that kind of caused Newgarden to kind of, he was in third at the time. He kind of jumped out, and I think actually that probably helped him in getting to a
Mm.
proper line to be able to get around Kirkwood like a lap and a
I
half
think in
later.
commentary
So
they were saying Kirkwood really needed Rasmussen to hold up Newgarden for a
yeah,
second there. And he just yeets himself off the track,
yep,
and Newgarden just sails by, and Kirkwood from looking at him going, damn.
yeah. But yeah, so what Newgarden gets around uh Kirkwood, uh 7 laps to go, I think.
Yeah,
And it was just, he was gone from there. Ended up taking the checkered flag by 1.8 seconds over Kirkwood. David Malukas finishes third. Pato Award on that new tire strategy that Newgarden was on ended up finishing fourth, and Marcus Armstrong, solid day in fifth.
yeah, he'll be very happy with that in particular after last weekend as well. So it worked out on the whole, and I think nicely mixed up top five, different top five from what we had in qualifying. But it's after last weekend, I think we were all a tad concerned about
Yeah,
which direction the
the
championship might have been
season was
heading
going.
in.
Yes.
And we didn't get this kind of a race until much later on in the season last year. And by that point, it was arguably too late. Whereas at least now, even if it still, goes back to normal, let's say with Palou, at least we've got that hope. Let's put it like that, that things are going to be slightly different, or it'll be more challenging for him than it appeared at points last year, because he's all the way down in fifth place overall in the championship standings
Yeah.
now, and Newgarden, Kirkwood, and Award are ahead of him. So that's what you like to see.
Yeah. Speaking of championship, I've got that pulled up here. Josef Newgarden is our points leader. First
Mm,
time that, we said, what, 620 days since we've had somebody other than Alex Palou leading the championship.
yeah,
Um, with Newgarden leading the championship, uh, he's only led 9 laps this season in the first two races.
I like that.
And everybody else in the uh, top 7 or 8 have led more laps than him.
Well, again, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And as long as you
That's right.
finish, it doesn't matter if he only leads 10 laps the entire season. If you can win 10 races
Yeah.
by leading on the last lap, then you'll do what you want to do that way. And it's
And
what he
what
did in
else?
Nashville last year, right? He didn't have that until the
Yeah.
very end and then
Till the
just
very
snatched
end.
it
Yeah.
away and went, I'll have that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. What else I thought was very interesting. So the lap leader so far through 2 races is David Malukas. Had a great first half of the race. It looked like it was going to be his race. He's led 73 laps, and he's in what, sixth place in the points. The second most laps led by a driver. You go all the way down to 18th place with Christian Rasmussen with 69 laps led.
I like the potential marker for the kind of season we're going to have.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought that was a very interesting stat line.
No, I agree. I agree. Again, you can lead as much as you want, but if you ain't there at the end, doesn't mean jack diddly.
That's right. Well, speaking of Malukas and Newgarden, let's talk about Team Penske.
Yeah, Newgarden started second, finished first. McLaughlin started fifth, finished eighth, and Lucas first pole position in IndyCar, and
Yeah,
then still gets on the podium in third. He'll be frustrated, I'm sure, that he didn't convert it, but at the same time, P3 against all of that other competition, not bad either. So an incredibly strong weekend for I think for the team overall. Newgarden back-to-back wins at Phoenix as well. Considering
yes, that's
last
right.
time we were here in 2018. Just demonstrating that killer instinct again. I would have liked McLaughlin a bit higher up, considering the championship ramifications. I know it's really early to look at that, but don't trust Palou to stay where he is.
Right.
So I'm just looking at that. It's still a solid result, but would have been nice a bit higher up. And we got that brilliant moment as well between all three drivers when they're coming out of one of the pit cycles. You had all three of them on the track at
All
the same
three of them
time, battling
together.
each other. And you
That
go,
was
this
pretty
is going to
exciting.
go one way or the other, and I really hope
Yeah,
it's not the bad one.
yeah.
Um,
That was an
nice,
exciting
mostly
exit. Yeah,
clean racing, and maybe Team Penske are back.
yeah. Another interesting stat I want to bring up that they had on the broadcast yesterday. This is the 12th consecutive season that Josef Newgarden has had a win, which puts him third all time in years with consecutive wins.
Not a bad record.
Yeah, yeah. Now we know that Dixon is our all time leader
Hmm,
and has an
that'll
opportunity
come, I'm
to.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. So he's got a long way to go to beat the master, but yeah, I think this is the Penske team that we're used to seeing. If we could just wipe
Hmm.
all last season off the map and just like it didn't ever exist for this team, I
Quietly
think
roll that car at the museum,
yeah,
replace it with something else.
yeah, that's right. Let's you know, I really hope that the momentum that this team has currently can continue on. Um, I think they deserve it. They've got arguably the best driver lineup uh, as a
And all of
whole.
them seem to be firing on all cylinders as well at the moment. It's not
Right,
an Andretti situation where you've got two of the three operating on over the course of a
right.
weekend, or the same with with Aaron McLaren. You've
Aaron
got all of them
McLaren,
in the
yeah,
window and fighting hard,
yeah,
and you kind of need that because again, you like you were saying in our preseason conversation, love them or hate them, the team, the drivers, etc., all of the above. They are an instrumental part of IndyCar, and it doesn't feel right if they're not at least in the mix. And that's all we want at the end of the day. I don't mind if Palou comes back and wins championship, as long as he has to fight multiple people for it across all different teams. And you've got these three in it. It's going to make it just so much more interesting, and that's what we want really at the end of the day.
yeah. Yeah, the post race interview with David Malukas, I thought was fun. He didn't seem disappointed, or at least too terribly disappointed
Hmm.
in a P3, but just in the way that he was talking, he knows that his first win is close. And he knows that he has finally made it to the team that's going to get him those wins that he knows that he's capable of getting. I think we know that he's capable of getting those as well.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if we get to the end of the season and he hasn't won at least a race.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So Aaron McLaren, great day for Pato Award. Qualified seventh, finished fourth. Kind of a milk toast day for Lundgaard. I'd say Christian qualified 17th, finished 13th, and then Nolan Siegel kind of the opposite. He qualified ninth, had a solid qualifying effort, and
mm,
then finishes in 10th or in 20th. Sorry. Um,
yeah,
it's just
I,
he was one of those drivers that at the very beginning of the race you just saw dropping like a stone. Him and Mick Schumacher,
mm.
uh, you know, fell out, from their starting positions very, very early on and just couldn't recover.
Yeah, Award, very happy with another consistent performance after finishing P5 last time out. It's what he needs. He needs that
Mm.
consistency. It's a little bit like Kirkwood. We'll talk about him in a minute. But just in terms of if you can't win, be up there, be getting those good
Yeah,
bag of points because you
yeah,
need to take advantage, especially in a race weekend like this where Palou is not there. Um, Lundgren, I don't ever recall him really being dialed in on any ovals. So I just don't think they're his track. And Siegel, yeah, qualified great, but again,
yeah,
like I was saying just now about Team Penske, You'd rather be Josef Newgarden and lead for only a handful of laps, and it's the last ones at the end rather than just and start maybe badly like he did in St. Pete, but then recover rather than start well and then, like you say, just drop like a stone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think piggyback off what you were saying about Award, if he can continue being consistent like he's being, um, he's going to finish so far up in the championship standings. And it doesn't matter what people around him do, but if he can just consistently rattle off these top five finishes, it doesn't. I mean, you don't necessarily need a race win. Now it'd be
Hmm.
odd to happen, but we saw Alex Palou get in an accident, and took him from first in the points down to fifth.
Like you
Stranger
said
things have
with
happened.
Scotty
So
Mack last week, he's going, I'm just aiming for consistency. I don't
yep,
necessarily, I'll take the win if it comes, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at the bigger picture here, and that's what I think he's doing, what the war's doing, what Kirkwood's doing.
yeah. Andretti Global, uh, I think probably would have hoped for a better weekend. Uh, I say that with the caveat of Kyle Kirkwood qualifying 11th and finishing second on the podium. But obviously, with Will Power, his accident, knocking him down to 16th after a pretty poor qualifying effort as well,
It was a
or
great
lack there.
recovery though up to
It,
that point.
it was a great
It was
recovery.
gut wrenching because he did the almost back to the front kind of win challenge. He was in contention for it, and then again racing it just happens a bit. But yeah, I think it's another one of those weekends where you look at the results, particularly of him, and you go, okay, it doesn't tell the full story. There were glimmers of hope. It's not as doom and gloom as it may appear from the outside. You
Right.
see two back-to-back results at the start of a new season with a new team after so many years, and you could very easily jump to the conclusion that not working. It's going terribly for him. He should never have left. He should have retired. No, 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 no. It's just taking a minute to
Yeah.
dial in, and he was leading briefly.
Yes, he was. Yep, he sure was. It was. Um, I think both Power and Kirkwood were on. They were on the same strategy that late in the race they should have both been up front, and they were. And so
Hmm.
from that standpoint, it worked out well. This is a team that often we talk about their pit strategies and their questionable calls that they have for pit strategies. Um, I don't know whether they've figured out the magic formula or if
One would argue
this
not
is just
quite
a
yet.
one off, and they just happen to make a good call. But yeah, I mean, great day for Kyle Kirkwood. I think um, this is um, the same start we saw from him last year. I feel like
Hmm.
where we're like, oh, he is a championship contender, and then May rolls around, and all of a sudden he's taking himself out of the picture. I really hope that's not the case this
So I'm
season.
hoping he's learned from last year
Yes.
and that this
Yeah.
is just okay. I can do well early on, but let's not stagnate after May.
Yeah.
But again, a little bit like Award takes advantage of the situation with below
Mhm.
exactly what we need to do. How many times did we talk about that with drivers last year? On the very rare occasions that Palou had a bad race, the drivers that needed to take advantage of it just didn't. And you go, we're trying to help you out a bit here, guys.
Yeah.
And you're just not living up to your end of
Yeah.
the bargain.
Yeah. And really, I can't say it's much of a surprise with Marcus Ericsson, starting 14th innings, finishing 17th. I think,
I was just
yeah,
disappointed after last weekend. I thought,
yeah.
he's woken up, and then never mind.
Well, he's, yes, he's an Indy 500 champion, but short ovals just are never going to be his thing.
He's just pulling on the heartstrings. He's just messing with my emotions, and I'm not here for it. I don't appreciate it.
Hey, maybe next weekend he'll be back to form for you.
Well, you heard it here first. If it happens, Mark Ericsson wins in Arlington.
Chip Ganassi Racing. I think this was I mean, other than Alex Palou getting knocked out, I had fun watching Dixon and Simpson.
Yeah, Dixon as well, a little bit like Power when Rasmussen came up to pass him was like, not so quick, kid. You're
Yeah,
gonna have to work a little bit for this, and I did appreciate that. Again, not brilliant qualifying for either of those two drivers, 15th and 19th, but 7th and 10th for recoveries,
yeah,
pretty good. It was a shame. I thought it would be nice to get Dixon a little bit higher up, but at the same time, you look at the people who did finish ahead of him, and you go, fair enough. With how things played out, it's not terrible, and he did move up a good number of positions. And I think Simpson is building on what we were saying last week. Again,
yeah,
he's doing what we want him to do, just inside the top 10, but it's enough, and he
yeah,
moves up 9 spots in the process. We can't really ask much more of him just yet.
yeah. It really, I we had several drivers over the last couple years that felt like questionable hires that are still in the sport and still feel like questionable hires.
We'll get to him.
Yeah, them. I feel like there's several,
There's one that's
but
immediately coming to
yeah,
mind, but yeah.
yeah. Um, but out of the three, be Stingray Robb, Nolan Siegel, and Kiffin Simpson, just to put it out there, I think Kiffin is showing that uh, he's the one that actually deserves to be in the sport. I think all
Mm.
three drivers are capable drivers, but he's the one that's showing that he's got the capabilities to do good things. We've seen two races in a row from him where we've been able to give him an attaboy. And
He's up against such strong competition within his own team.
right.
Scott Dixon, Alex Palou.
Yeah.
You're measured against an incredibly high benchmark week after week, and it's so easy to criticize in comparison to those two. But you take that little step back and you go, you know what? As we were saying, we don't need you to be on the podium and winning races immediately, but as long as you keep chipping away and if you pardon the fun and move in the right direction, then we'll be happy. And
Yeah.
well, 2 out of 2.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then Alex Palou, we've mentioned him. We've talked about him with his early race exit. He was coming up through the field. He started 10th and made his way up to what, fourth place.
Mm-hmm. And
When
we rated knots as well. We just looked on another whole other level. And we were saying earlier, we were all just kind of worried about, oh no, is this is this
yeah,
happening again?
he's figured out the ovals now, and so now we got to worry about those with Alex Palou.
Hmm.
So I just it was uncharacteristic for this team to have an incident like that. I thought one thing I thought was interesting was when they were showing it was after the incident, and they kind of do that side card on the screen where they're like, who's the engineer and who's the team manager and
Hmm.
who's the spotter. Um, they left the spotter section blank. It's like,
Health and safety.
let's not throw him under the bus. Keep us guessing.
I like to have each other's backs like that. We're
Yeah,
just gonna
yeah.
quick run, run.
Not sure who's up on the spotter stand for him. We just won't put it in there. Yeah.
Or Chip Ganassi just realizing, oh, okay, we've got some spot.
We forgot to give him a spotter this weekend. Meyer Shank Racing. Marcus Armstrong qualified 13th, finished top five in fifth place. And Felix Rosenquist, kind of a nondescript day for him. They didn't give him a whole lot of coverage on TV, but qualified 24th, absolutely horrible qualifying, but
Hmm.
ended up finishing 12th.
He had that crash as well, didn't he, earlier on the weekend, which
Yes.
didn't help things.
Yeah.
But again, second P12 in as many weeks, good recovery makes up 12 positions. Maybe it's just a number he likes this year. Maybe that'll be my prediction. He finishes in 12th overall at the end of the season. We'll see. Um, but I think he benefited from these cautions in the same way that Armstrong did, but to
Yeah.
different degrees. You had nothing to lose by just rolling the dice and seeing what would happen. And you're in these positions where if it doesn't work out, you're already outside the top 10 anyway, or top 20 in Rosenquist's case. Try it. Why
Yeah.
not? And it worked. So, no notes. Good job.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
going.
All around, I think Meyer Shank had a great weekend.
Mm. Which we didn't
You
really
know,
get to see after last week. Armstrong
yeah.
had his issues with Ericsson, Rosenquist again P12. It was something
Right.
they didn't necessarily write home about, but on an oval in a chaotic race such as this, keep your head down take a little bit of risk where it's due and don't try and to get too far up above the parapet, and you should be okay.
It started off as an expensive weekend for the team with Rosenquist, but
It paid off.
it paid off. Yes. At Carpenter Racing, this one, I think we could talk about this one for a whole episode. Alexander Rossi, great qualifying effort, made it into the Fast Six,
It'll be the
and then
easy bit to talk
finished.
about.
Yeah, finished sixth. Great. I mean, great run for Rossi. I mean, this is um, the kind of run that I think we knew that he was capable of having, and but we were hesitant to kind of hitch our horse to it and be like, oh yeah, he's going to have great finishes this season on these ovals because he's with Ed Carpenter Racing, a
Mm.
smaller team that had a lot of question marks going into the start of the season because there's so many new people with that team. But it seems like it's working out. And then, of course, Christian Rasmussen. uh, we
He's his
can
own
beat
worst
it.
enemy, I think. I said
Yeah,
it earlier when we were talking about some of his antics during the race, but I think he's still bloody brilliant to watch during a race. Um, Aside from taking power out, in my opinion. But he just he's a real driver's driver. I don't think he knows what fuel management is. I don't think he knows what tire management is. And I don't mind one bit because he just goes for it. And at the very least, it's a little bit like Ferrucci in the sense of, or what Ferrucci is meant to be normally, in the sense of you don't really know what you're going to get, except he's going to be interesting and exciting to watch. He's going to go for the moves that no one else is going to go for. You saw that when he was lapping cars.
yeah,
You saw that in Milwaukee as well last season. You go, stop it. You don't need to do this. There is no, you're literally leading. There is nothing to gain from doing this. And yet he just keeps doing it. And I think that's ultimately his undoing at the moment. It's that odd desire to not only be at the front, but he's got to obliterate everyone else in the process. He can't just win, he's got to win big.
yeah.
Um, and it was interesting, his post race interview for me. He's not taking as much responsibility as I thought he might, but maybe that was just heat of the moment. You know, energy is still high, adrenaline's still up there. But I think hopefully watching back a few of the moves, you go, yeah, cool, but you didn't need it. It didn't
Yeah,
serve you too much in the grand scheme of things. And I think, when he was dealing with power, there was, and some of the other drivers as well, as they're taking, it's still so early in the race. There's still so much race left.
true.
Chill, buddy.
Yeah.
Chill.
I think that although I mentioned, questionable driving style, car that was set up to be ultra loose, I think all the other drivers on the grid need to take notice of Christian
Hmm.
Rasmussen anytime they visit an oval. Uh,
As like I was saying earlier, he's not a contender for the championship, but he's someone you need to watch out for
mhm,
because he's got nothing to lose.
yeah, I mean, we kind of look at drivers in a couple different categories. We say, okay, here are the drivers that do really well on street courses. They're not so good at ovals. Here are the
Hmm.
drivers that are good on ovals that may not be that great on road courses or street courses. And so you kind of put these guys in little boxes, and so we don't expect much from Rasmussen when next week at Arlington. I
Hmm.
I don't expect him to fare well. If he does, great, but I'm not expecting a whole lot. I expect
We'll say
Rossi to be a
we'll
little better.
describe it as uncharacteristic if it happens.
Yeah, right. But I think on these shorter ovals, especially, every other team needs to be taking a look at what is his car setup? What is he doing different from everybody else? Because I mean, yes, he was aggressive, but he he was the class of the field until the 9 laps from the end. And his run to the front, he started 18th and he was already in the top 10 by the first caution, you know. And so it was uh an incredible drive, number one, but also that car's setup was just different from everybody else's. He was able to do things with his car that nobody else could do. There were 24 other drivers on that track that would not been able to replicate what he was doing on track.
and snuck under the radar doing it. He finished P6, but you didn't see too much of him. He was around, and you saw him in shots, but you never, at least from what I saw, had a had an intense focus on him for a long period of time. He just went about his business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, great day for both drivers. Unfortunate for Rasmussen that it didn't work out his way. And
Mm.
I think had he won that race or at least finished on the podium, we would have a lot different conversation about. I think there would be
I
a
think it's good
lot
that
more
he
hype surrounding
didn't
him.
win or get on the podium because I think now he will hopefully look back at some of the moves, like you say, and learn from them.
That's
Because
true.
otherwise, it
Yeah.
might give him
The
it
false
reinforce the notion
confidence
of
that,
I
yeah,
can just be
oh,
this
I could
mad
just
all the time,
just
and
drive
it will
any
work.
recklessly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like drive recklessly to an extent, but you need to have the control element. He's lacking a bit of that control. It feels like he had it in Milwaukee. He found that perfect balance. But this time, I don't know if it's because he'd
Yeah.
broken the Ducks back and he got that first win last time. He's like, okay,
Mm.
I'll just go do it again, but let's push it. I don't know what the mindset was there, but hopefully this makes him just pause for a second and go, okay, I can still do this, but I don't need to go this intense.
Yeah. I caught David Land's post race uh, episode on his channel, YouTube channel this morning, and he made mention that if you are the owner of a short track that IndyCar is coming to, you need to put Christian Rasmussen on your poster. Sell
Yeah,
him, and you will sell tickets.
easiest bucks
Yeah,
you can make, I think.
that's right. Yeah, we mentioned Ferrucci just a minute ago. A.J Foyt Enterprises qualified 21st and finished 11, just outside the top 10. And then Cal Collette qualified 23rd. Not the best qualifying efforts for this team as in general, but finished
Hmm.
19th.
Yeah, Ferrucci, I think P11's not a bad recovery, but uh, we expect more from him. He was feisty at points, but
Yes.
not as involved as we thought. He seemed a bit as if his wings had been clipped slightly. I don't know how to
Mm.
describe it. It's only a second race, but he is giving me sort of not Jacob Abel vibe because that seems very harsh, but um, very
It's very
much.
harsh.
There's a reason he didn't win the championship in Indy next, and you
Mm.
can tell the difference between him and Hauger in the way that you definitely could tell the difference between Abel and Foster last year. There was a very clear distinction between how one was doing versus the other.
Mm.
The interesting thing here for me is that Paulette's, in my mind, in better machinery, a better team. So there is less of an excuse, I want to say, for it.
Mhm.
Um, but also reinforces just how good Dennis Hauger is and how he just needed to write his own story in a way and get away from his past, as we've talked about before. But yeah, not a bad day, but not particularly outstanding one. I don't think we'll be looking back at this end of the season going, do you remember A.J Foyt back in Phoenix? How
Yeah.
great was that? I don't think that's happening.
No, yeah, kind of a nondescript day for him. I do like uh, Ferrucci. You're right. There was something about his driving that felt more reserved than what we're used to seeing on these smaller ovals from him.
Hmm.
You think
I
of,
don't know what the reasoning
uh,
for that was.
like Nashville, what, 2 seasons ago, or uh,
Heck, any of them really.
one of the
He's just
Milwaukee races two
we're
years
just
ago.
I'm just not
Yeah,
used to seeing him like this. Full
yeah,
stop on any kind of circuit. He's usually if he's not there, you don't see him. But he was there in it. He'd
right.
taken the gamble. He'd pitted. He had nothing to lose. He was up there, and then you go, okay, Ferrucci's in the mix now. What's going to happen?
Yeah,
And then just nothing did, and he fought a little bit, but nowhere near as much as we thought. And we're going, oh, all right, never mind. Then we'll focus on someone else.
yeah, yeah. Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. Oof. Talk about a great beginning of the weekend and not ending well.
Silver lining is they have figured out something about ovals that they clearly haven't known about for God knows how long now,
Yeah,
years, because Rahal qualifies third, Schumacher qualifies fourth, Foster. Okay, we probably don't need to brag about qualifying 16th, but um, that was just so nice to see. And Schumacher was the first one out in qualifying as well,
yep,
sets this lap time and just good enough for fourth just off the
yeah,
bat. And you go, all right, fair enough. Okay. And then more bad luck for him. It's not on track this time, it's in the garage. And Yeah.
Yeah, broke.
Third
Yeah,
time lucky. Third time lucky
yeah,
in Arlington.
yeah, yeah. During that first, was it the first pit stop?
Yeah.
Schumacher had a wheel gun that malfunctioned, and they had
Mm.
to scramble around to
And obviously
get
on
a
a short
tire
course
change.
oval,
So
you're screwed.
yeah,
You lose time there, you ain't getting it back unless something really calamitous happens, and nothing
right.
did. So
Yeah. Yeah, Foster qualified 16th, finished 23rd. Another driver that we talked about him earlier, tagging the wall and kind of ruining his day. Rahal, though, finished ninth.
positive.
It positive. I was pleasantly surprised because it felt like we only talked about Graham in that very first stint, those first couple caution flags, and then it felt like we didn't talk about him again until the end of the race. We're like, oh,
He sort of did
Graham
a bit of
finished in the top
a
10.
bit of a bit of a Rossi, just kind of quietly went about his work and just went,
Yeah,
please no one notice I'm here. I'm doing quite well. I don't
yeah,
want to be overtaken too much. I'm just gonna get along and get along. And I think maybe, well, I don't know about this, is pure speculation, but you have the thing of you see Graham Rahal ahead, you maybe don't think he's a threat, and you think, oh, he's just, I don't need to overtake him because he's probably behind me. And I'm
right.
slapping him. And he's like, yeah, I'm actually ahead of you.
Gotcha. Yeah, this was his best oval start in 17, 18 years. They said since 2008.
But he's been around a while.
He has been around a while. And good to see this team having this little taste of some success
Hmm.
because we saw absolutely zero success last year, felt like.
Yeah, we got a little bit of potential from him on the Indy road course,
Mhm.
and that was about it.
Yeah,
I don't recall much else from last year,
right,
unfortunately.
exactly. Yeah.
Whereas at least this year, we're starting earlier. Hopefully that we're starting earlier, there's pool potential for later. We'll
Yes.
see. But yeah, we need these little stories in there, a little bit like with Dayle Coyne, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Grosjean didn't start the race ultimately up qualifying 18th, not a brilliant weekend for him at all. Hauger qualifies 22nd, finishes 15th. Again, like we said earlier, not the result you'd be thinking anything is coming good out of from paper, but then you look into that incident and you
Mhm.
go, he saves it and he finishes higher than where he started, survives some of the chaos. Good, good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what else. It's kind of, it's just quietly positive. You're not going to be able to keep up that momentum necessarily that you had last weekend in St. Pete's. That's, setting the bar too high for yourself. But, I'd be curious to know what his expectations were coming to this weekend versus last weekend, because I think
That would be
he
interesting to
was
see.
saying ideally, he said he wanted to have a clean weekend in St. Pete's, ideally finish in the top 10, but obviously you don't know how likely that's going to be until the day, and then you sort of surprise yourself.
Right.
Um, short oval, very different. Short oval he's not been to before, and then in this kind of a race as well. That's going to be interesting. It's a shame that I was in a press conference with him before the weekend and not after because I can't ask him about stuff that hasn't happened yet.
They uh I think Hauger really, I mean, the spin and save that he had was simply
That
amazing.
is something we're going to be talking about at
But
the end of the season.
but some of his driving that we saw, especially in the first half of the race when he was trying to recover from that, was brilliant. I mean,
Hmm.
he's definitely. I mean, we know that he's in the Andretti pipeline, and that at some point he's going to get moved up, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later for him. I
Ericsson.
think, yeah, exactly. Or power. Hey, you never know. Hey, I'm
Tell
just
us for
saying,
that.
power. He
Colton
might
Herta's
get.
not in that seat. Stop
You you
abusing it.
you you mentioned Will Power and the word retirement in the same sentence earlier in this episode.
Yeah, in
So
terms of it's not going to happen and shouldn't have happened. Don't try and edit me. A lie on air.
Who goes Hollinger Racing?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Move on.
Move on. Let's just move on. uh, we saw Stingray Rob qualified 12th, made it into the
Hmm.
second round of qualifying, which is great. Or, well, I guess they don't have second round of qualifying. This is just pace at the oval, but we're used
Yeah, a
to.
little bit like Nolan Siegel just sort of
Yeah,
found the speed out of nowhere and was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
maybe
all
this
right,
is the turning
yeah,
point. And then, no.
yeah, yeah. Finishes 4 laps down to 21st, and then Renus VK. We've talked about him ad nauseum already. And we all know where we stand with him. Qualified eight, so excellent qualifying. Finished 22nd, 5 laps down. Still running at the end, but
I think with the
yeah,
potential that he was showing, I'm looking forward to seeing what VK can do in Arlington because he's had two races now where the potential is high. And
yeah,
it was just a racing incident ultimately that took him out this time. It wasn't, anything too calamitous or that you could plan for the
yeah,
workaround. It's just stuff
right.
happens.
Yeah, I think with Rob's car, I feel like the the engineer at that team missed a setup or something, a race setup, and I mean he fell like a rock at the beginning of the race. I mean, just I don't know whether he was just maybe the car was set up right and he was just spooked because the pace in the first 12 laps was so frantic. But you'd expect a driver to be a
You've got
little bit more
250
situated.
laps,
Yeah,
fall down the order slower.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no need to fall all the way to the back, especially when you
He did a
qualified.
reversed Rasmussen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, who was your hot driver slash team slash
Order.
who did you
Yeah.
have?
I went for Josef Newgarden just because I mean, he had an impressive time of it in St. Pete's, good recovery drive. No one was expecting it. And again, no one expected him to come from where he did in this race, either to win it, closing stages, repeated what he did in Nashville, loves an oval,
Yeah,
that killer instinct, he's back. He's in the hunt now and he's leading the championship. And it's nice that it feels like not to take anything away from the likes of O'Ward and Kirkwood, but you put Newgarden up against Palou and you think, okay, we
yeah.
have something.
Now we've got a fight.
There is
Yeah,
something that could happen here.
yeah,
Um, so that's exciting.
yeah. For me, I've got the entire Team Penske lineup. Uh, McLaughlin, who we didn't really even get to talk about a lot this weekend,
No,
but
but not in a
but
bad way. He
but he's
just,
playing the long game. We talked about him
yeah,
last episode after St. Pete. He is in the mindset of this is a long season and we're just going to be consistent and put ourselves in a position where we're there at the end. And uh, he did it again this week, uh, and then with Malukas, being on the podium as well. And so I think the entire organization is hot right now. It's going to be fun
hmm
to see uh, where if we if we can still talk the same after we leave the month of May, because we know what happened in the month of May last year with this team.
oh
Um,
yeah.
if they
Let's not
can
go for three on
if
that one.
if they can build momentum going into the month of May, uh, this momentum that they're building currently, they're going to be the team to watch. We know what all three of these drivers are capable of doing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, they can keep this up. I'll just leave Team Penske in this blank on our show notes form. Just keep going forward, hopefully. So, uh, for not hot, um, I think this one's going to be a shock. I'm going to say Alex Palou.
Justify yourself, Mr. Woods.
Uh, that incident that he had with VK, like I said, it wasn't 100% anybody's fault, but it was partially his fault,
And
partially
that's
his team's
unusual.
fault. Yeah. And uh, very uncharacteristic for him. I I I was trying to justify putting him as my hard luck driver,
But you
but
couldn't quite do it.
I couldn't do it. It was with that accident was part his fault. I'm not going to put a percentage on it on what I think it was, but it was more than 33%. Uh, but yeah, just a
I'm
tough
hearing
day.
90. I'm hearing 90 from you.
I don't know if I'd say 90%, over
I'm trying to bait
50%
you
to
into a
be.
number.
But how about for you? Who wasn't hot?
There are a couple here. I think Marcus Ericsson, just after last week, just disappointed me. But then Christian Rasmussen, because he did it to himself, ultimately for me. And that's how you make yourself not hard. It's kind of, you lean too much into what makes you great and you drink too much of your own Kool-Aid and it bites you in the ass. And that's kind of what it did, it felt like. So it's maybe a little harsh, but that's my Kool-Aid. I'm harsh.
Yeah. I had Christian Rasmussen as my hard luck driver.
And you're entitled to that opinion.
We're not going to agree on 100% of everything. I
No.
think I think
Over 33%, over 52%. Well, we
yeah.
won't put numbers on it.
Yeah. Yeah, for me to call him the hard luck driver, I think he led almost 70 laps in the race and uh just drove the absolute wheels off of it. And
Hmm.
the
Almost to the point of actually driving the wheels off it at points.
this is true, yeah, yeah. But his on track antics aside, I think that he deserved so much better of a finish in this race than what 14th shows. The box score, when we go back and look at this race just on paper 5 years from now,
Hmm.
we're going to be like, oh, Christian Rasmussen finished 14th. He always finishes 14th. That doesn't tail, it
That
doesn't
seems
tell the
harsh in
tale.
so many years' time to say that of the three-time champion Christian Rasmussen.
Wouldn't that be something, right? But who's your hard luck driver?
Second week in a row, Mick Schumacher.
Oh,
And I'm
second week in a
hoping it
row for
doesn't
you.
transfer over to Arlington. Please no. If it was just on track antics last week that you couldn't do anything about, can't do anything about a wheel gun
It's
breaking in
true.
your pit stop.
Yep.
He was running not high, but he qualified well. He could have got a top 10 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yep.
happens. It happens. But we do have
Yeah.
one more thing before we wrap up this episode, which is IndyCar adjacent. Colton
Yes.
Herta watch. I thought I'd sneak this in because we're not going to be able to mention him again for a while. Probably. He made his Formula 2 debut this weekend down in Australia for the first round of the season with High Tech, alongside his teammate, former Super Formula champion Ritomo Miyata. He finished P16 in the sprint race, but with flashes of IndyCar aggression that I was talking to you about off
Mhm.
podcast,
Yeah.
fighting the likes of Montoya and Solov, who needed a bit of that. I felt like they're always a bit overly aggressive, and then it happens to them, and they suddenly go, "Oh, what was that about?" And you go, "Oh, funny how that happens." So it was really great to see him kind of giving it to him, especially because he's got that IndyCar mentality of, "I'm not going to get penalised for this. Why would I?" And then
Right.
you go, "Yeah, but you're in Formula Two now. You might." Um, Feature race T7, really solid job. Two
Yeah.
places behind his teammate, who's already
Yeah.
got a season in the series under his belt. P11 now in the championship overall. And I say we're probably not going to mention him for a while because it looks like the next round will be in Monaco in June because Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, probably not going to
Questionable.
happen, I'd say. Yeah, it's questionable if that's going to move forward.
Yeah.
And he's got the accolade of being the only Cadillac driver to score points this weekend in Australia. So just saying.
Oh. Ooh. Oh, dagger. Yeah. But yeah, that's great for him. We talked a good amount about this move for him, and we're as much grief as I gave Colton Herta in his years
You
in
want to love
IndyCar.
him, I can tell.
I want to. I want him to succeed. I want this an American to come up and be a thorn in these guys' sides, not just a moving chicane like
Mm.
so many other previous Americans in the F1 series has been.
Whoever
So
could you mean?
yeah, right. So yeah, we'll see him on track again. Obviously, it might be a while, but
Hmm.
uh, it'll be fun to see what he's able to do this season. So, well, that wraps it up for this edition of On the Curbs IndyCar. We don't have to wait very long for the next episode either. I mean,
No, we
we talked
don't.
about this season being fast and furious right out of the gate, and we've got just another 7 days to wait until a race that neither one of us have ever seen, the
No,
brand
brand
new
new street circuit.
Streets of Arlington. I think I saw a sizzle reel on the IndyCar website
Mm.
documenting the course, and
Mhm.
there's some really interesting aspects to this track that kind of borrow from um, other races. We got the double-sided pit lane like we have in Detroit,
Yeah,
and then we have the stadium pass under like we have at a few F1 tracks. So
yeah,
a stadium
going to be
section,
interesting.
it's
What
literally
could possibly
around the
go wrong?
stadium. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So we will see. We will be back next week with another episode. We hope you guys tune in. We'll talk to you later.